Good afternoon and welcome to the Biztech's Asian Midday Market Watch. Our guest today is Lee Kian Soon, CEO of Astral Asset Management, coming out of Singapore. Now, Kian Soon, great to have you on the show again this Wednesday.
Yep. Good afternoon to all.
Now, we'll start with cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is at 41,564.7. It's up 7.8%. Ethereum is at 2,709.76. It's up 6.28%. Now, over in regional stock markets, markets in South Korea today are closed because of the country's presidential elections, but we'll start close to home with the SGX. The SGX is at 3,175.59. It's up 0.85%. If you go across the region, we look at the KLSC in Malaysia, which is at 1,550.35. It's up 0.22%. Shanghai is at 3,257.53. It's down 1.09%. The ASX All Ordinaries is at 7,338.3. It's up 1.18%. The Nikkei is at 24,958.5. It's up 0.68%. And rounding up the numbers, we've got the the Hang Seng, which is at 20,312. It's down again 2.25%. Kian Soon, what's your view on how markets have performed this morning?
So for today, I think there's a general recovery in most markets. Given that there's some good news coming out from the Russia-Ukraine conflict, there's some positive developments that we have seen. With the exception of Hang Seng, I think it's in a rock and a hard place because of a perfect storm, right? Where you have macro and global tensions, as well as some local problems related to the high number of cases of COVID-19 pandemic situation over there. And they are wondering, whether they should still proceed with the mass testing given the high fatality rates that we have seen in Hong Kong. So I think, the situation is not looking too bright over there currently.
Now, I want to ask you, first of all, I think given global sentiment now, that potential energy ban from the US and UK, what are its implications, particularly on energy prices globally?
I think we have seen with the sanctions announced gradually, and the latest bit is the energy ban by United States and United Kingdom. Currently, the situation is... the reality is US only imports around 3% of oil from Russia, no natural gas, while UK, imports both oil and natural gas, which makes up around 5 to 7%. And therefore, it's not a big hit onto these both nations. But if you look at Europe, right, 40% of their energy comes from Russia. And that's why they do not, rush in to say that they are going to basically do a ban on Russian energy, because it will definitely affect their own domestic options. But if you look at energy prices, it's starting to soar up, mainly because of these sanctions and bans, as well as the fact that the OPEC and the other oil-producing nations have not signaled that they are willing to increase production to make up for the shortfall if needed. So that causes the oil prices to be shooting up through the roof to as high as over $130 per barrel that we have seen recently.
But what's your view on oil prices in the short term, short to medium term? Because at these sort of prices, for example, shale can be turned on very quickly.
Yes, I think for the Americans, they are definitely happy to turn on the shale gas to meet any form of shortfall. Given that they have those infrastructure already in place, and it's a matter of switching it on as long as the prices of oil is actually attractive enough for them to do so. So we'll definitely see a return of the shale gas to provide, at least for the American side. And as for the other nations, I think they really need to look at where their sources of energy coming from, and with the prices of the energy going up, and as well as what OPEC will decide to do going forward, as OPEC could also increase the production fairly quickly.
Now, Kian Soon, the other impact which is less talked about is really the impact on global food prices as a result of this crisis. Because after all, Ukraine and Russia, basically are major bread baskets for Europe. Now,
Yes.
what's your thoughts on this?
So, as you mentioned, it's been very quiet on this front, but Russia and Ukraine actually attributed to around 25 to 30% of the global supply of wheat. And that definitely will affect prices of flour or flour going forward, because wheat flour is used to make bread. And a lot of countries do really need supplies, given that they are biggest supplier, combined, and definitely because of the confrontations, the supply will be affected. And definitely going forward in the next couple of months, we'll see prices of bread and wheat products being affected.
Then, Kian Soon, we're just going through an amazing period of turbulence in global equity markets. Where do you see buying opportunities right now?
I think for investors, the hardest part is always trying to make sure that they go into the market at the lowest price, but this is often very tricky, given that nobody can forecast how geopolitical tensions will change day to day, as events are furiously unrolling even at the current juncture. So investors, I think if you are always waiting for the lowest juncture, it might not really work. Rather, you should just spread out, and take your time to enter the market gradually, but stay invested, because it's going to be very painful if you try to exit the market now and you're whipsaw if the market rebounds, given that what we have seen for the last couple of weeks since the confrontation began in end February. This thing is going to be ongoing for a while, at least for the first 2 months, given how the warfare has developed. As we have seen, it's not going to be really over within 1 week or the next couple of hours. Rather, there will be a series of developments that's always affecting the global equity markets. So it's really difficult to time yourself to reach the lowest buying point. Rather, I think if you are keen to invest and you have a longer investment horizon, the only logical thing is to invest over time, so that you could average down as situation unfolds, and when it rebounds, you'll be able to capture some good companies and share prices at attractive prices.
Now, Kian Soon, as always, thank you very much for coming on the show, and thank you for your insights. Now, we've been speaking to Lee Kian Soon, CEO of Astral Asset Management in Singapore, on Biztech's Asian Midday Market Watch. I'm Brian Fernandez. Please check out this podcast and video on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our social media platforms. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thanks for tuning in.